So listen, it's that time of year, especially down here in Florida. There's good and bad happening right now. The good is we're out of the FERT ban. And trust me, I've been throwing down like a cowboy. I'll have a video with the results of that in a couple weeks. But along with the end of the FERT ban, usually, typically, mostly, especially this year, means it's the end of the rainy season, or at least the end of the rain every single day season. For those of you that aren't from here and have never visited outside the wintertime, in the summer here in Florida, we get rain every single day for about 20 minutes, sometimes a little more, in the afternoon right around 3 o'clock.
I smell copper tone. That means that Captain Linda Greenlaw, a lady vain about her nose, is in my wheelhouse.
Now the timing might vary depending what part of Florida you live in, but it's definitely afternoon rains. And when I tell you rains, they are rains. They are heavy rains, as you can see. Now the fact that we have that rainy season is great because it means that we never have to water our lawns, or very rarely in the summer. And St. Augustine grass and zoysia grass, which are the two primary grass types we have down here, as well as some Bermuda and a lot of grass. They actually require quite a bit of water in the summer, so it's all free and we're glad to have it. The thing about that is it causes an issue with our lawns when the rainy season ends. You've heard me talk about it with cool season lawns coming out of spring and going into summer. I say your grass is rain drunk, and so the first time it gets hit with that heat in the summer and a couple of dry days, it has like a major hangover and you can see it in the lawn. Well, the same thing happens to us, especially with St. Augustine grass coming out of the summer and heading into the fall. When we get our first 4 or 5 day stint with no rain, your lawn, being rain drunk, has a hangover and it starts to look like this. Can you see how this is all kind of brown casty in here? Here, let's do it from this angle. I don't know if you can tell, but the lawn has a brown cast to it, all in through this area right here. Let me get a little closer and you'll definitely be able to see it. Can you see all that? That brownie stuff? It's wet because I've been testing the sprinklers to film for this video, but you'll start seeing a lot more of that. Now, I did a video explaining what some of this is a couple weeks ago. Now I'm gonna give you a quick clip of it as a review here because it's very important for you to understand how your grass type, St. Augustine especially, grows and sinks and sources. Don't worry, this hurts me as much as it hurts you, baby. There we go. Oh, that's a long one. Look at that. Stola constrictor. Okay, so you can see this stolen. Now, let's talk about something. This is what I call the business end. This is the growing end. Now, we got some spots on the leaves there. That's part of the disease pressure that I'm under. We'll talk about that in a minute. That has nothing to do with this illustration, but this is the business end right here. And each one of these little, they're like knuckles kinda, but they're called nodes. And so the way this works is, back here is the mother plant somewhere back here, and this stolon has been pushed, and every few inches as it pushes, it creates a node, and the node does two things. The first thing it does is it sends down roots, and the second thing it does is it sends up grass blades. And then the node keeps lengthening, and then the stolon keeps lengthening, another node is created, and then the stolon keeps lengthening, another node is created, and so on and so forth. So what you have is, and you can actually see it here, these nodes down here are actually older than these up here by possibly several weeks. That's why these are much greener and much healthier, and you can see these are starting to slough off. So the reason that these are more green than these is because of what are called sinks and sources. Those are actual kind of technical terms, and let me explain what I mean by that. So as the grass is growing and as the stolon is moving, it is putting out more sinks, and sinks are out here at the end. These are called sinks, and what they're doing is they're moving, they're pushing roots down, and they're pushing up grass blades so they can grab the sunlight and photosynthesize. Down here, these are older sinks that are actually turning into sources, and down here, these are sources. And you can see there are no more grass blades here, they've all died off. But what you have now is you just have rooting masses, and these roots are continually grabbing. These are now these are sources, and these roots are sources of nutrients and water. They're grabbing nutrients and water and sending it down the stolon to the sinks so that they can keep pushing up grass blades, but also so they can continue moving and pushing and grabbing more ground. What you have here in the middle are older sinks that are in the process of becoming sources. And so that's why you see these dead grass blades in here. That is not from disease. That is just the normal growth process of these sinks aging to become sources. And you can imagine that the longer the stolon gets, the more sources it has to have to keep supplying all these sinks way out here in the middle of nowhere. It's like having a fort way out in the middle of the desert that you got to protect. It's going to take a lot more support to keep the supplies moving out that far. Now here's the thing about that. When I made that video a few weeks ago, we were still getting rain every single day. So when you'd see some of that brown in the St. Augustine grass, in most cases it was just normal sinks turning into sources. However, when we get this rain lull or this hangover, and all of a sudden all of this water has been feeding all of that growth and fueling it and powering it. I mean, water is the staple of everything. When it gets cut off, all of the sinks, they're cut off as well, and they all turn brown really quick. And the thing about it is, I've been doing this for a long time, and I see this every single year. This time of year, people with St. Augustine grass, zoysia to an extent, yes. Bahia to an extent, yes. Bermuda to an extent, yes. But really, with St. Augustine grass, people go, what's wrong with my lawn? Is it diseased? Is it dying? Do I have bugs? What's the problem? And usually the problem is watering. It's not those other things. And I'm not saying it can't be those things. But what I am saying is, if you do believe that you have a problem, the first thing to check is your irrigation. Because not only is your lawn rain drunk, but you and I have gotten lazy because we haven't had to monitor our irrigation systems all summer, right? They've all been rain skipping for months on end. Holy cow, obviously something's going on here that I need to fix. Now that the irrigation is needed, we have to put in a little work to make sure that our heads are adjusted, that everything's working right, it didn't get knocked over by lawnmowers, stuff didn't break, this and this and that. I showed in a previous video, I actually had a head that was broken. A giant furniture truck ran over it. I was just now able to get to repairing it in the last couple days. However, what I didn't realize is this zone that this one's on, so this one had a completely broken riser, which meant all of the water for this zone, which goes from over there and down through here and goes way down there. Not the most logical way it was done. A lot of you guys, you'll find that when you have a home lawn, it's cobbled together. Your irrigation it's just how it works. But either way, all of the water was flushing out of here. So that meant everything this side of the zone was getting not watered. So when me thinking, well, it'll be okay because maybe this one section won't get watered, I didn't realize though that so much water would be robbed that all of this area down here would also get no water or not enough water. And that's why it's checked out the way it has. Again, it's not gonna show up on the camera, I don't think, as bad as it is. And it'll actually look like disease on a camera, but it's not. It's just lack of water. And so well, those are weeds right there. But all of the sinks didn't get enough water, so they all, boop, checked right out. Now I have a brown lawn. So you'll find that this time of year I spend a lot of time. Hey, look at that. Free lawn donut. But I spend a lot of time going through and making sure my heads are cleared. And oftentimes I have to raise them, and that's the case with this one. I don't know if you can see, but it is sitting a good 2 inches below grade there. And so what I would typically need to do is put a riser on it. This is actually a 1/2 inch head, and I really need to convert this to a 3/4 so I can cover a lot more ground. But while I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and upgrade it to something better, something longer, something stronger, something that can stand up to this St. Augustine grass that's always trying to eat it. Something that can pop up, stand out above the rest, I guess would be the right word to say. Oh, real quick. Robbie, Darwin's Grip, I haven't forgotten about you, bro. I'm so sorry this year's gotten away from me, but I love what you invented.
These are the Toro T5 3/4 T5 RapidSet 3/4 inch inlet irrigation rotors.
Wild Stallion!
Yeah, so this portion of the video is sponsored by Toro, but let me explain a little bit more because there's a lot more to it than just some rotors, even though these are really cool and you're gonna find something out about these that makes them unique. I actually, the relationship I have with Toro now is really different. You know, I did a big sponsorship with them several years ago. They learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from that. You know that I'll still tease their lawyers all the time by wearing flip-flops and shorts and videos featuring their mowers. But now I have a much better relationship with them, and it's one of give and take. Basically, if I need something, I make sure that I give them something, and then I have an ask for something else. And one of the things that I asked for very recently and they stepped up for was to help me get irrigation at the Freedom Factory. You guys know I coordinated the install of the Pro Vista St. Augustine grass out there at the Freedom Factory several months ago. I had some great partners come through during that, sponsored all of that. And we actually had to get that established using a water truck literally in the middle of a drought. We were in a spring drought. Spring never rains too much anyway here in Florida, but this year it was classified as a drought. Everybody did a great job, came together with water trucks to make sure the sod got established. And then once we got to the rainy season, we knew we'd be good until we got to this point here in the fall. And I told Cletus Garrett, I said, look man, I'm not gonna let you down. I am gonna find a way to get this lawn irrigated because I love it as much as you do. And for those of you that watch his channel, you know he loves that grass. And I always tell him, I love it even more. And in fact, in a recent video, when he hit the wall, I had to leave a comment telling him I was glad he hit the wall. I was glad he was okay, but I was glad he hit the wall rather than the grass. Now, ideally, we would have had the irrigation installed before the sod, but with you know, everything that happened in the country this year with lockdowns and all that, it just wasn't able to happen. So we knew we'd have to retrofit it later. So I called my friends at Toro. I said, what can you guys do? And they came through for me and they did a couple things. The first thing is they provided expertise. The second thing they did is they provided all of the black plastic, they call it. So all the heads, the controller, the smart pieces of the controller, the valves. And in fact, let me now go to Matt, who is the local Toro representative here in Florida, and let him tell you a little bit more about what we installed out at the Freedom Factory.
All right, so let's start with the irrigation control package that we're going to use here at the Freedom Factory. It's a Rain Dial R Series irrigation controller from Irritrol. Irritrol is a brand that the Toro company owns, and they've been making control systems for a really long time. So this is an old school kind of a dial style controller. So
it's pretty simple. You just set it to, like, I don't want to use the word worst case scenario, but you set it to max scenario and you leave it.
Yeah, that's correct. So what we want to do with the system, we're going to install a system that's intelligent in that it's going to adjust run times automatically based on what the weather on this location is doing. So when we set up the basic irrigation timer, this Rain Dial Series controller, what we want to do is just program it to the hottest and driest time of the year. And then the brains of the system, this climate logic unit, it's going to throttle the run times up and down based on what the weather is doing at this location at any given season. So this will just plug right in. We'll mount it next to the controller, and this will interface with the controller and allow the run times to move up and down based on the weather that we have here at the property. So this climate logic unit communicates with a wireless weather station, or a mini weather station we like to call it. This does a couple of things. Number one, it measures the intensity of the sun. So it takes a measurement of how bright the sun is, how intense the sun is at this specific location, and it also measures temperature data. Okay, and then that data is transmitted and logged in the climate logic unit, and then that data is coupled with two other pieces of information that are contained in this SD card, and this SD card is placed inside the climate logic unit. And the SD card is going to provide us with historical data for this latitude and longitude, specifically providing humidity data and wind speed data. And so it'll take the wind speed data and the humidity, couple that with the solar intensity measurements and the temperature measurements from this unit, and from there this unit can decide how much water we're losing to evaporation and transpiration, and it can adjust the run times of the controller accordingly to replenish what we've lost from plant use and from evaporation.
What
and
else we
then
got?
we also have this CLR1 maintenance remote. This is just a very simple waterproof maintenance remote, and this will allow us to turn zones on manually if we're working on the property away from the irrigation controller. In this application, we're going to be watering large turf areas, so we need some pretty good size radius out of this head. We need this head to throw a pretty good radius. So what we've chosen here is Toro T5 RS, right? The T5P indicates this is a 5-inch pop-up height, and the RS indicates that it's a RapidSet model. And so we'll break down these individual features for you. So a 5-inch pop-up height is critical, especially in a place like Florida where we have St Augustine grass as the predominant turf type, and it really needs, you know, the universities recommend that you cut it at a minimum of 4 inches of height. So when we're in season, we're getting lots of rain. If St. Augustine grass is being fertilized appropriately, it will grow like crazy. So having a 5-inch pop-up height as opposed to a 4-inch pop-up height is a big deal in Florida with the turf types we grow when we're in season. The other feature that we discussed was the RapidSet feature. And one of the things that we like about this Toro RapidSet rotor is that you can make arc adjustments without using a tool. You certainly can use a flathead screwdriver to change the arc. It's real simple. You know, you turn it counterclockwise to remove arc, and you turn it clockwise to add arc. And so that's simple enough. But what do you do if you're working on a job and you left your screwdriver on the last job, or you lost your screwdriver? It's a pain to try to find a tool when you need it, because inevitably you can't find it. So the RapidSet feature allows us to change the arc of a rotor without having a tool. So I'll illustrate that for you now. So this would be your right stop, this would be your left stop. It's roughly at 180 degrees, you'll see. If we want to add arc and say go from 180 degrees to a 360 degree adjustment, we'll just turn it past the left stop, and now we've adjusted this rotor to be a 360 degree adjustment. So pretty simple. Now if we want to close that down and go back to 180 degrees from the right stop, we'll just turn the rotor the amount of arc we want to remove from that circle. In this case, we want to take 180 degrees off of it. So from the right stop, I turned it 180 degrees, and now I just need to go back to the right stop again, and I've subtracted that off. And now you'll see that the rotor is set at 180 degrees.
Now Toro also paid for some of the labor, and then Cletus, he's picking up the rest. So I just want to say thank you very much, Toro, for supplying everything that you did. You guys really made it a great project. They even brought in an awesome contractor who is first class, who I am actually going to have do some work with here at the house coming up over winter. You guys are gonna love to see that. So it ended up being a great collaboration between an awesome local YouTuber here, my friend Cletus McFarland, a great company that I love, Toro, and then I was just really happy to get to be a small piece of that along the way. So there you go, guys. There's a way you can gain a little extra height in your watering and hopefully help your whole strategy overall heading into winter here, because I got a lot more tips coming up for Florida lawns, St. Augustine especially, but don't worry, I got you Zoysia, Bahia, Bermuda. I got all you guys. Any of you that are down here in Florida where you're year round. Now I got to get back to work. I got a few more heads to change here, make sure my watering game is set, because I have gone ahead and thrown down some fert, which is another piece of that. So look for that video coming in a couple weeks. Hope you guys have a great week. I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the lawn.